There was racism at the heart of Buckingham Palace, in the household and within the royal family. They wouldn't point the finger or name any names or even give too many specifics other than some comments about her unborn child, which I think most of us agreed didn't sound racist at all. But now, well, at the beginning of Kate and William's trip to the United States, a 3-day visit started in Boston yesterday, an embarrassing race row. Well, rather more embarrassing for the poor woman who was at the wrong end of it. Prince William's godmother, one of the closest aides to the Queen, the woman who accompanies the Queen, indeed, to her own husband's funeral last year. She has resigned from her duties at Buckingham Palace after she repeatedly asked a black charity chief, a visitor to the palace, where she came from. This is Lady Susan Hussey. OK, she's 83. She moves in posh palace circles where maybe they have different values and different norms from the rest of us. But I'm pretty sure that if I arrived at Buckingham Palace and she asked me where I was from, and I said, oh, I'm from talkTV, as opposed to the charity that Ngozi Fulani was chief executive of, that if I said, well, I'm from my company, and she would say, oh, no, where are you from? I go, oh, from London. She wouldn't then presume to ask from which African nation or any other nation I hailed from. She would accept that I was British, as Ngozi Fulani repeatedly told her. She was born in this country, bred in this country. She is a British citizen as much as I am, as much as Lady Susan Hussey is. The fact that she refused to accept, again and again, repeatedly asking where this lady was from, insisting she must tell her where she was from in Africa, tells us something, that this lady doesn't really think that black people can be properly British. That was the message she sent out to a guest at Buckingham Palace. Is it right that she's gone from that job? Yes, it is. Is it right that Prince William moved very, very quickly, immediately upon arriving in America, ensuring that this woman quit her job and will have no further dealings with the public through a role in Buckingham Palace? Yes, it was. But does it tell us about, well, what the attitudes are at the heart of Buckingham Palace? Maybe it's just the elderly royal aides who have those views, as, let's face it, quite a lot of elderly people might have in this country. Or does it tell us something more? Well, all I know is that I've been in a situation myself in my own family where an elderly relative asked a black boyfriend of mine 30 years ago, where are you from? And his reply, Derbyshire. Didn't come good for her. No, where are you really from? Derbyshire, he replied. No, where are your parents from? Derbyshire, he replied. It wasn't good enough, though. I think we've all had it in our families, haven't we? But should it be happening in the royal family? Rupert Bell is with me in the studio. He's our Talk Radio Royal correspondent. Also joining us on the line is Weyman Bennett, who's co-convener of Stand Up to Racism. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. I just want to talk to you first, Rupert, in terms of the royal repercussions here. But first up, just to explain exactly what's happened. We are talking about Tuesday night, or Tuesday day. There's a reception at the palace, the Buckingham Palace, hosted by the Queen Consort Camilla, about her charity work, particularly campaign work on domestic violence against women. Among the people invited are lots of charity chiefs who run those charities helping those women. Among them is the chief executive of the charity Sistah Space. Her name is Ngozi Fulani. She is one of those who's invited because of her great work in that field. She was spoken to by a former lady-in-waiting to the Queen, senior royal aide and aristocrat, Lady Susan Hussey, aged 83. Before we go into rights and wrongs, I'm going to read just the full transcript, because a lot of people are saying she just asked this lady, where is she from? What's the big deal? The full transcript, I think, explains what the big deal is. Right, so here's it goes. I'm going to do Lady Susan's accent, if that's okay with everybody. I'm guessing I'm going to be right with this. Where are you from? Sistah Space, was the reply from Ms Fulani. No, where do you come from? We're based in Hackney. No, what part of Africa are you from? Can you see where this is going, folks? I don't know. They didn't leave any records, was the response. I love that response. Well, you must know where you're from. I spent time in France. Where are you from? Here, the UK. No, but what nationality are you? I'm born here and I'm British. No, but where do you really come from? Where do your people come from? My people, lady. What is this? Came the reply. Oh, I can see I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here? Lady, I'm a British national. My parents came here in the 50s when... Oh, I knew we'd get there in the end. You're Caribbean. No, lady, I am of African heritage, Caribbean descent, and am British nationality. Lady Susan carries on. Oh, so you're from... It just carried on. No one... Rupert Bell, let's be clear. No one is disputing this conversation happened, including Lady Susan Hussey. other people were witness to this. Other people were uncomfortable at the time. So we wrote this up and tweeted about it pretty quickly. Prince William, now the Prince of Wales, on a visit arriving in America, along with the Princess of Wales, Catherine, he has said these were unacceptable comments, and Lady Susan Hussey has basically resigned from any duties at Buckingham Palace. What do you make of that?
I think it is completely... the royal family have done the right thing. Lady Susan Hussey, it's not as if she hasn't been to receptions before. She knows the score. And I don't know what she was thinking. And that's the problem.
Well, we do know what she was thinking, that a black person couldn't be British.
Exactly. And why, in a sense, why was she even thinking it was the right conversation to be having when you are used to being out there? And that is the problem for the royal family.
Does it tell us something about the royal household, generally about the royal family, going back to the claims that Meghan and Harry made in that Oprah Winfrey interview?
What it says, it's... an institution that may not be moving with the times quickly enough. And that is the problem for the royal family. And we've seen it. The King and the Prince of Wales both want to see a modern royal family, but the institution is like a great big tanker that is at the moment trying to change, because obviously it's had the Queen around for a long time and they did things a certain way. Yeah. Now they've got to change, and this is an example. And it's sad for the Queen, because in a way what she was doing was fantastic work, but unfortunately it's been overshadowed. OK,
well, let's come to you, Weyman Bennett from Stand Up to Racism. What was your reaction when you first heard these claims and read the full transcript? I say the undisputed transcript about that conversation.
Look, it exposes a layer of racism which was first raised by Meghan about how she was disproportionately treated when she joined the royal family, which, by the way, has been denied by people like Piers Morgan, and who denied that was taking place and has gone
Well, no, he didn't deny it was taken. He had no reason to know either way. But the point was that
what I'm trying to say,
when Meghan and Harry made those claims, they didn't say who and they didn't say what.
Yeah, but there was something which was whipped up of hostility against them, because they raised something which needed to be treated. It's perfectly reasonable to turn around and say there are levels of racism, especially when you have children that are definitely mixed heritage and that you want them to be treated equally, and you raise it and you want it to be treated and you feel that it's not being treated. And I think that one of the things, if in order to treat something that's wrong, you have to challenge it. I mean, a meeting about domestic violence against women should not be discussing the origin of where people are from. It should be dealing essentially with a subject which we...
Well, I mean, this wasn't a meeting. I mean, this was a reception. Everyone's got a drink in their hand or a cup of tea, and so people are going to be making conversation. The royals routinely say, "Hey, where are you from?" And then you say, "Oh, I'm from, I've travelled up from Bristol for the day." Oh, lovely. I mean, the answer that Ngozi Fulani gave, first of all, was the obvious answer. Where are you from? I'm from Sistah Space. This is the charity. This is why I'm here. I run this charity. Know where you're from? Okay. Geographically. We're based in Hackney. I mean, her first two answers were very, innocent answers to what appeared to be innocent questions. It was when the interrogation continued. Can we deduce from the conversation, the questions of an 83-year-old woman, aristocratic woman, the attitudes within the royal household as a whole? The royal family as a whole? Does Prince William's swift action saying this was wrong, shouldn't have happened, she can't be part of the royal household anymore, does that tell us that there has been a generational change? Does that resolve this issue? Where are you on that?
But I still think there's a long way to go if we're honest about it, because there's so much denialism involved. If you've ever been subject from an institution, which I have myself, where people insist on going on and on. If you say I'm from Stratford, and they say, and they go on and on, really what they're trying to do. So
someone will say to you, "Where are you from?" You say, "Oh, I'm from Stratford in East London." And then they'll say, "No, where are you really from?"
Yeah. And also, that deep interrogation isn't to find out what's interesting about you, what your educational background is, what you understand. It's about establishing a hierarchy about where people belong or where they don't belong. And it's an unsaid language, but you are very, very fluent in it.
And that's the thing. Lots of people are saying it's very innocent, and I was thinking so. But I'm sort of second generation half immigrant, because the Irish, as many people in this country have, are Irish immigrant parents. I'm thinking if my dad, in the very unlikely circumstance, my father would be invited to or attend Buckingham Palace. Dad, if you're listening, I know why. If you did, the idea that someone would say to him, oh, so where are you, but where are you really from? Well, they wouldn't, because he's white, so it wouldn't come up. And that's the key thing. It's when people are saying they don't think there's any offence here, the first two questions, not an issue. What part of Africa are you from? Why? A, why is it relevant? B, why would you assume because someone who presumably has a British accent because they've lived here all their lives and been born here, why would you assume that? Why do you have to question that? No one's asking me to which part of Ireland or which part of Denmark might you be from because your parents might have come, your great parents came over with the Vikings. I mean, we don't ask those questions of white people.
Well, let's be honest. The Hohenzollern family are from Germany. We completely accept that they're Windsors from where they're from. But if we kept on going, which part of Germany are you from? Whatever it is, people would say that's an unacceptable set of questioning.
Well, that would be xenophobic. Yeah, people would say that. Yeah. In terms of how we deal with this, though, look, I mean, there's no doubt at all. Meghan and Harry will be, if I were them, having made the claims they've made and the accusations made against them for their claims about the royal family and racism, I would have been chuckling away into my glass of vino last night if I were them, especially as William and Kate arrive in America, a country that is riven by racial divides for many different reasons from our country. Do you think this basically means that what Meghan and Harry had said about the royal household and the royal family is true? Does this basically, is that them going, see, told you so? Or should we not read into, as I say, what one, frankly, daft old 83-year-old woman said?
Oh, no. What we want to do is we want to try and push out racism in institutions, and we don't want to gaslight people. If they raise there's a problem, what you say is, yes, there is a problem, let's deal with it. Not, I don't believe you, or you're making it up, or ignore it. But let's deal with the problem.
No, but the issue with Meghan and Harry, they didn't give specifics. And the one specific they did give, a lot of people were saying, well, I don't think that was racist about the baby.
I don't know what happened, right? But I do know that if you want to estrange yourself from your family forever, you name all the individuals, the uncles, the aunts who've done something, yeah? And actually then the family never talks to each other ever again, right? So that's probably unlikely to happen. But if you say there's been racism in, I come from a mixed heritage family myself, extended or whatever it is. If there's ever been a problem inside my own family, I said, look, I don't like that, yeah? Nobody in my family, black and white, turns around and says, no, it didn't happen. They go up to the uncle and say, don't ever do that again, right? Or we don't accept that inside this family. And I think that's the right way. They don't go to me and say, oh, they didn't say it. They say, let's deal with it. And I think that applies to the royals and all institutions in our society.
OK, Weyman, Bennett, co-convener of Stand Up to Racism from Stratford. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Really interesting to get that perspective on this. A lot of people just say aren't taking this seriously, saying storm in a teacup, Rupert Bell. This is clearly not being taken as storm to keep up by Prince William and the Princess of Wales, Catherine. They're on that visit to America. This really couldn't have happened for them at a worse time, could it?
Appalling.
That Netflix documentary coming out next week as well.
I think that the way things are going, they're less worried about the Netflix documentary because I think that might be just boring. But the optics of going over to America, again, under a cloud, just as when they were in Jamaica and everything, it now just doesn't feel good for them. They wanted to make a big impression, but now it's been overshadowed by a royal family that is, by as we say, an 83-year-old woman, not just thinking. And I'm not going to say she's 83.
It's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse. It's not right.
But if we were all judged on things that our elderly relatives said, it's all over the front pages today. The biggest story of the day right now, of course, is this royal toxic race row. Some are calling it this, of course, just as William and Kate arrive in America for a 3-day tour down the East Coast there. Of course, the country where his brother and sister-in-law, Harry and Meghan, live. They are not meeting up at all while they're in the country, other side of the country in Montecito in California, of course. But after those accusations that Meghan made and Harry agreed to on the Oprah Winfrey interview, all that massive big interview that hit everywhere, that there was racism within the royal household and specifically with senior members of the royal family, well, they must be sitting there this morning rather pleased with themselves after the latest row. Well, this is a conversation that was had between Prince William's godmother, one of the late Queen's most senior and closest aides, Lady Susan Hussey, aged 83, when she attended an event hosted by the current Queen Camilla, the consort Queen, for domestic abuse charities. And one of the executives of a charity at Sistah Space, Ngozi Fulani, she was in attendance along with other people, and she had a conversation with Lady Susan Hussey, which didn't go very well. It's resulted in Lady Susan Hussey quitting from her unpaid but very senior honorary role within the royal family because of what Prince William has called unacceptable language. Now, I'm going to read out the actual exchange because I think it's important to know the full exchange. Yeah. The headline is that this old lady asked the black British charity chief, where are you from? And an awful lot of people are getting in touch with me saying, I don't see what's racist about that. I ask people where they're from all the time. The full conversation explains why it is unacceptable, doesn't it, Alan? Yeah,
absolutely. The full, that initial question, there's nothing wrong with that. Someone's arrived at the palace to say, where are you from? And obviously she took it to mean, as in, what organisation are you from? Yeah. So she said Sistah Space. But clearly the follow-up questions, the repeated follow-up questions, made it seem like an interrogation about this woman's nationality and that she was pretending that she was British when she wasn't. And I think when you understand that, when you read through that, you realise why the woman felt violated by it and why it's such a grievous...
Such a toxic. Yeah. Again, I am not someone. You're regular listeners and watchers. You know, I'm not someone who thinks, oh yeah, that must be racist. When anyone makes a claim about xenophobia, racism, transphobia, what did they actually say? Well, let's have a listen. Well, not listen. I will read the transcript out. I will do somewhat appropriate accents for certainly one of the people. I'm pretty sure I've got a good idea how Lady Susan Hussey speaks. So this is how the conversation went. Where are you from? Sistah Space, replies Ngozi Fulani. No, where do you come from? Oh, we're based in Hackney. Not a problem so far? All happy with that? No. What part of Africa are you from? Do you see where it's going now? I don't know, says Ms Fulani. They didn't leave any records. Great response. Well, you must know where you're from. I spent time in France. Where are you from? Here, the UK. No, but what nationality are you? I am born here and I'm British. No, but where do you really come from? Where do your people come from? My people, lady. What is this? Oh, I can see I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here? Lady, I am a British national. My parents came here in the 50s when, oh, I knew we'd get there in the end. You're Caribbean. No, lady, I am of African heritage, Caribbean descent and British nationality. This is the crucial thing. She would not accept that this woman was British.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this with Grant Harrold. He's a former royal butler. He also knew Lady Susan Hussey personally. Grant, Harrold, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Julia.
Really appreciate you joining us. Now, do we write off an entire household of staff, an entire royal family, because of what one 83-year-old lady said in a conversation with a charity chief executive? Or is this indicative of what Meghan and Harry were talking about, this sort of institutionalised, some will say, OK, low level, but nevertheless racist attitudes towards people of different ethnicities? What did you read into it when you read about these comments?
I mean, you're quite right. I mean, when you actually read the transcript, it's terrible, and quite rightly, Prince of Wales has obviously condoned it and said, this should not have happened. It's really difficult from my point of view because I knew Lady Susan. I mean, when I worked in the palace, I knew her really well. In fact, even when I was a teenager and I wrote to the Queen to try to get a job, she actually wrote back to me. So I've known her for a long time. And the other thing about Lady Susan, she's been was with the Queen for many, many decades. She knew her whole life. But what I'm puzzled at, Julia, and I don't for a second say I don't disbelieve what this lady's saying, because she's obviously, which is really important when something like this happens, is to write it down. I'm completely for that.
But also there were witnesses, and some of them have been interviewed in the media, people who were there. This was not a one-on-one conversation.
Absolutely.
It has not been denied that this was the conversation. Other people heard it and felt uncomfortable about it at the time. So that, it's not a he said, she said. This is what happened.
No, I get that.
It's how one interprets it.
I think what surprised me, Julia, and I completely get that. What surprised me is it's just when I witnessed when they used to do this kind of thing. Of course, they sometimes ask questions and things, but not like this. It's like when, as you've probably been to the palace, and they'll say, "Oh, so tell me where are you from?" But it's in the area or something like that. But they don't then go on and ask the question they've been asked. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know why that's happened.
Well, we know why it's happened, because this woman clearly, now, okay, we can excuse things, she's from a certain age and things. And I recounted a little bit earlier on the show a conversation a very elderly, sort of distant relative of mine had with a black boyfriend of mine. But again, we're talking 30 years ago. Things have changed, I hope, in the last 30 years. And she asked him, where are you from? And he said, Derbyshire. And she said, no, where are you actually from? And he said, Derbyshire. No, where are your parents from? And he said, Derbyshire. We knew what she was getting at. He thought it was funny at the time, and he was just sort of wrote it off. But again, this woman was a guest of the Prince of the Queen Consort Camilla at a charity event, doing amazing work as chief executive of Sistah Space, a charity for victims of domestic abuse. To be asked repeatedly to sort of explain what where are you really from, because you're not really British because you're black. That was what this lady meant. I can understand at the start it sounded like a normal, where are you from? Or, and you can have a conversation. And there's a difference. If someone has a strong accent, for instance, or any accent at all, you could ask, where are you from? Or someone's wearing, I don't know, a national dress. Oh, where's that national dress from? Oh, is that your family heritage? There are many, many ways where it's perfectly acceptable and reasonable and polite to have that conversation. Reading that full transcript, which has not been disputed, tells us something very, very different. Is there a problem at the heart of the royal family, or does Prince William's action on this very quickly, does that show that they do get it, or is there an issue? I mean, is this just a woman of a certain age and a certain class, and she just has, frankly, views which really don't represent what most people in this country think anymore?
And it's really, you're quite right. And the thing is, from that point of view, the royal family have got to be very careful, because it's very clear that they treat everyone the same. They don't they're not, they don't discriminate. So when something like this happens, it's highly embarrassing. It's really embarrassing, which is why I think Prince William was very quick to release that statement. And the fact that the palace also got involved right away.
Yeah.
They weren't leaving this. They weren't given any time. To my mind, that says, as you pointed out, that obviously the apologies been made to say this shouldn't have happened. Prince William making the statement when it's his godmother, and I'm aware of how close they were because of being in the palace. So they've taken those steps. Is it good enough going forward? Well, the thing is, they've got to be so careful, and it's not just the royal family, as you're quite right in saying. It's the royal household. They've got to be careful what they're saying, both on and off duty, because this does reflect the royal family. When I worked for the royal family, I remember being told that anything I said and did from that day forward, and Julie, this is 20 years ago, they said it would forever affect the royal family. And it's true. If I say the wrong thing, which thankfully I haven't to date, but if I say the wrong thing, it can be picked up.
But no one seemed to mind when Prince Philip was doing it, asking, people, Chinese people about having his slitty eyes. I mean, he actually said things like that. No, of course, you can't be sacked as the Queen's husband. I mean, I think a lot of us also rather loved him for clearly just not caring about being rude to people. Being rude is different from expressing, racist views. But this is the thing. You're being very studiously careful, and this is why you've survived as a royal butler for so long. But I mean, is Lady Susan Hussey, is she... I mean, it is perfectly possible, I believe, for someone to say something racist, but not necessarily be a bad person, for people to be a product of their environment, a product of their age, not keeping with the times, not meaning offence. I don't want people being, castigated as evil, awful people. I mean, I think what she said was wrong. I think it was offensive, and I think it comes from ignorance and a fundamentally racist view, which is that, black people aren't fully British. She wouldn't have asked the same question of my father. He's the son of Irish immigrants. And if he said, I'm from Paddington, where he was born, in London, she wouldn't then say, no, where are you really from, where are your parents from? That question would never have happened because he's white. And that's the difference. And she only asked this woman because she was black. That was what she was getting at. Is she a bad person?
No, this is the thing. From my point of view, of being around her and seeing how she is, she is a generally kind lady, and she never. When I was around her, bear in mind it's only 7 points I was around her, but she was never. She was always polite to everybody, and this is why I was so confused. And I hear what you're saying. Totally understand where you're coming from, but it still surprises me because I kind of think with the household being a modern household today, that they're all aware of how not. I mean, the Queen famously never put her foot wrong, and this is a lady that was always at her right hand side, and can I say would have lent from the best. So that's why it's just shocking that this happened. And it was only in the last week she was made given this new position, which obviously is not leading waiting. So this is how first day in this kind of new role. And it's just so. But again, I think it's important putting the message out to all members of the royal household. You know, that at these events, you've got to be very careful of how you conduct yourself and what you say.
Well, in all circumstances, a conversation on the bus, even, I would say. Really good to talk to you, Grant Harrold, former butler at the palace, and new Lady Susan Hussey. Let's bring Alan Tolhurst back in. He's being very diplomatic. I mean, you know, there's a reason why I don't work at the palace. I mean, can you imagine? God blimey. The tweets we're getting in, a load of people... I mean, I would say most people getting in touch are saying they don't see what the issue was and everyone's just deliberately taking offence. They're saying this lady has formed this charity chief because she defended Meghan Markle when she made the Duchess of Sussex when she made claims. So to give you a selection, there's Andy. The charity chief could have answered the old lady early on, but chose to be passive-aggressive about her answer. That encouraged deeper inquiry. Again, I've read the transcript out. That is... again, if someone asked me, where are you from? And I would assume it was... Oh, I'm from talkTV.
Yeah.
And then where are you from? Oh, well, I'm born in Birmingham, but I think I'm from London, really. That's where I spent most of my life. And then no, where are you from? And I'd be like, well, I don't know what you mean. I'm from London.
Yeah,
I'm from
exactly.
England, you know. Martin says, terrible they've thrown, meaning the royal family, they've thrown somebody under the bus who's dedicated her entire working life to the royal family. The diversity industry destroys all before it, and this causes further resentment, not harmony. I mean, she hasn't dedicated her entire life. She's a, very rich, aristocratic woman who had a role with the royal family, which gave her huge status, married to a, very rich, aristocratic man, daughter of an earl.
Yeah, I might get in trouble for this, but I often hear this about service and duty in the royal family.
Give me over.
It's turning up to places and
she wasn't cleaning the silver.
Is that service?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Getting to be involved in the highfalutin circles. Oh, get over yourself. Ben says she is the victim of the extremist radical progressive ideology. Emma says if the royal family were against it, not really a debate, said she was in the wrong. Thomas, my wife of Indian heritage but was born and raised in the UK, has asked this a lot from other Indian people. Is that racist? Jerome says I've lost count how many times I've been asked that personally. I've never been offended. I'm proud of where I came from. But again, well, Jerome, I'm assuming therefore, Jerome, that you are not born in Britain, but I don't get asked that question.
Yeah, and also the person who's about Indian heritage, that's a normal conversation. To say where are you from, that's like a normal conversation to begin the conversation.
Where is your family from in India?
And that person has a discussion. Yes. This was not that. This was clear an attempt to interrogate this woman and, like you say, make her feel like she wasn't really British. Yeah. The fact she's saying passive aggressive, she's not passive aggressive. Saying where she's from, she simply could not answer it any differently. She was being pushed to answer in a way that she was completely uncomfortable with, and absolutely refusing to accept that this woman was British. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to disagree with you on this, guys. I'm really sorry. And if you think I'm sorry, I'm not being woke and PC at all. I would have, if that conversation had happened in front of me, I would have stepped in and said something. Sorry, why do you ask me where I'm from? I'm sorry. This moved on from the first two perfectly polite questions into something very, very different. Finally, just last couple of minutes, I know we've got with you. Lady Susan Hussey has stepped back from a royal role at Buckingham Palace after she asked a black charity chief, Ngozi Fulani, repeatedly where she was from, refusing to accept that she was British. You are of Indian and Sri Lankan descent. Have you ever been asked in the same way, where are you from, and the answer not accepted that you are British?
Yes.
And what did you feel? What did you make of when it happened to you, and what did you make of this conversation between?
When that happens, I try to talk to people because I'm here because my father believed in British values. He felt part of this country. He worked very hard and he paid his taxes, and so do I. And I really feel proud of being British. I'm proud to be a British Member of Parliament. So when people ask questions like that, I think I hope that they listen to my answer on the first go, but if they don't, then I'll try and talk to them. But I do think it's important that the royal family, that we back the royal family with the decision that they've taken and the very clear stance they've taken against racism.
People who are getting in touch and people who are saying this is just a row over nothing, and this woman was simply asking a guest at the Buckingham Palace, where are you from?
Over again, I understand. Over and over again.
Is that the issue? The first question was acceptable, and after that it wasn't. Where does the offence start?
The issue is why not accept when somebody says I'm born in Britain? Why not accept that? And I think that's the issue. And I think this is something which I don't experience it that often, but when it does happen to me, I think it shouldn't be beholden to me to have to restate over and over again my commitment to British values. But I will do that. And my understanding is that this charity worker did, but felt demeaned by it. And I completely understand that. The royal family's taken a decision. I back them for taking that decision. It's the right thing to do. And I hope that what we can take from this is that this is a country where part of being British is being respectful of people's origins, being respectful of difference, and knowing that what we share is our commitment to British values. And that pretty much, I think that trumps everything. She was a charity worker. She was contributing to this country. She should be valued and welcomed, and I value and welcome her.